If you have to compare Ranveer Singh's performance with any of
I personally think it's the greatest performance I've ever seen. The range of emotions without explaining what Ranveer Singh showed. Probably this is the best script I wrote. When I saw Dhurandhar, it completely changed my mind because Dhurandhar's created a new benchmark.
what about Sandeep Reddy Venga?
See, Sandeep is in a.
Do you have a prediction for the final numbers of Dhurandhar 2?
I'll tell you something. A very big budget film of a big star called Pavan Kalyan. It released on the same day in Telugu, and the Dhurandhar Telugu dubbing version is becoming fools everywhere, and that is doubted to be a disaster.
Do you see some changes in movies like King, for example, and other films that are going to be coming in, even Toxic?
Not mentioning anything specific because I don't want to say that. Hi, this is Ram Gopal Varma, and you're watching Memorable Conversations with Faridoon Shahryar.
Aditya Dhar is terrorizing the film directors. He's the real Hamza, according to you.
Yes. See, I say that I'll tell you further because see, the whole point, we see blockbusters all the time. It's not like it's a new thing. Every once in a while, the film comes which will break the so called box office records and all that. But I think to talk about the Dhurandhar series, it's not, I think it is shortchanging it. It's kind of being injustice and also being stupid to think of it as just one more blockbuster because the sea change in its impact it is created on the audience's mind, and it suddenly kind of opened up to them. This is how films can be made. What are you saying, man? What have you been watching all these years? That kind of a revelation, for a want of a better word, comes once in many decades, not even in a decade. I think that is what I think is happening with Dhurandhar. See,
So, first,
I was watching it in Zero Plaza on IMAX, and they had some 20 minutes of ads and trailers and all that, and then the interval. After watching for 4 hours 40 minutes, not a single one guy is getting up in the end titles. Also, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
right.
So I think, and the industry, like the wife, is always the last to know in an affair. I think the industry is the last to know exactly what's happening between Dhurandhar and the audience. That's what I feel.
That's a
See, when
very
I'm saying
interesting
Dhurandhar,
analogy.
I mean it as in both the films. I don't mean it as in one. So
That's one thing.
I've drawn to take that. Yeah.
I think it's generally definitely not any a regular blockbuster. A Saturday apparently is going to be like 100 crore a day
Correct.
net, which is unprecedented in more ways than one. So I think it is even from a box office point of view, this is something that has never been seen before. 4 to 5 crore footfalls. Now
Yeah.
that's crazy. In multiplex history, this has never happened before. In 25
Mm.
years of history, this is something that has never happened before. It will definitely be outlasting Bajrangi Bhaijaan for sure as well. So this
Correct.
is not merely a blockbuster, sir. This is something, and especially
Mm.
after post pandemic, people had
Yeah.
not been
Mhm.
going to theaters all that regularly. It
See,
is something which is different.
my point still is, Vardhan, I think, sorry to say this, you're still talking about it as a film. I really don't think it's a film. It's a kind of a experience or a phenomenon. I don't know. Actually, I'm running out of my words.
Mm,
Because see, when did you ever see a film with this kind of a structure? See, we all are trained in films from decades and decades of making them
mm,
to see a certain structure in the screenplay, how a story is told, what is a climax and what is interval and blah 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 blah.
mm.
He broke every rule of that. Absolutely doesn't follow a pattern except for what he wants to tell from his heart, a story, what he wants to say, and through his characters. When did you last see a film where a so called climax is over and then the film goes on for 40 minutes? Did you ever see? I never saw anything like that. You know? And people are lapping it up. It's almost like a fireside story someone tells, and then after the story is over, you're asking, "वो character का क्या हुआ, इसका ये क्या हुआ," and all that. These loose questions, loose ends, whatever we call. To tie the loose ends, it took 40 minutes time, and it looks like they won't mind even if it takes another 1 hour. You know.
Right. No,
So
in fact,
that
there's
kind of a immersive experience in cinema, I do not believe it ever happened. Yeah.
so like a hand grenade is flying literally. It seems like it's being choreographed. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like
Correct.
an action scene. It's literally slow motion. You're seeing a hand grenade, and it's like
Yeah.
not merely
In
slow
a, in
motion.
a, in other words, you're saying is made characters out of the hand grenade.
Exactly, exactly.
They're also characters, and even
Yeah.
a sellotape is a character.
Mm.
And which is taken from his finger, a sellotape or something.
Yeah.
That also, in
Correct.
a close-up, it becomes a character integral part of the story. Yeah.
Correct. Right. Right. Absolutely. Okay. And you're saying that Dhurandhar is a horror. It is a horror for all filmmakers who build their careers and their fortunes on dumbed
Hmm.
down, over the top cinema. Now, have you spoken to any filmmakers? Have they been cribbing that?
Yes, of course. Yeah, see, the
Mm,
point is, see, well, like, in any business for that matter, you will feel, you will arrive at a pattern. This is what the audience want to see, you know,
mm,
and then you make it in that format, which is what's been happening for the last 10 years. All these, especially the South Indian, pan-India films, where I'm mentioning them specially because they are the ones who are getting the big numbers at the box
right.
office.
Correct. Correct.
So they want to, they feel this is how the audience want to see and they're making the film. Whereas what Aditya Dhar did, this is how I want to tell the story. There is a massive difference between the two, you know.
Mm,
So he, by telling it his way, getting numbers bigger than them is like a sea change. I mean, in whatever. So suddenly the people are used to make in the way they feel the audience want to see. Now they're at a loss. It scares the hell out of them because if this is how films can be watched, and this is how there is no interval bang. This is the only film I saw in my life where there is no interval bang. Always interval is on a high of any so-called commercial big ticket films.
correct.
Then when we thought the climax is over, like I said. So it breaks every rule, and not because he wants to shock you for the value of shock, but that is the purest way of telling the story. Now imagine, and by the time Hamza's character makes a whole thing, and then suddenly we'll think the film will titles come in any second. He's captured and is beaten like a dog after that, and some random call saves him. And see, that is how it happens in real life. In real life, there's never a climax. It's always till you die, there will never be a climax in real life. So extending the story beyond what we thought was a cinematic structure, that is where the greatest success of Dhurandhar 2 is. So, and then the time is taking. I mean, a shot, one shot I can't forget is when he burns out the photo of his wife and son,
Right.
which is almost like, what shall I say? It's like that chapter is over in his life. I mean, I got a lump in my throat when I saw that shot. And this is the first time ever I think I've seen a film. The protagonist, Ranveer Singh, he rarely explains his actions. You never really know what his thoughts are, what he is thinking. Just in the silences and other people's reactions and other people what they say, you get to more and more closer to him. At a point of time, you just kind of get lost into his character. I don't remember if ever very little he speaks, if you notice. And he doesn't explain anything, any of his actions. You're supposed to infer, you're supposed to understand it. Yeah.
So you've said that Ranveer is has decimated all the godly heroes people have been just worshipping
Yeah.
for the longest period of time.
Correct.
So tell us something more about it. Like, what exactly do you mean? And
Yeah.
can you name?
See, no, no. Yeah, yeah. See, the point is for me, when in recent times, not to take its name, two big stars are fighting on a highly big budget film, and you don't see an expression either of them. This guy punches, that guy has no effect. This guy punches, he has no effect because they're heroes, they're Superman, they're not supposed to feel pain, they're not supposed to feel any kind of what a regular human being will feel because
Right,
they want to protect their star images with their fans or whatever the reasons are. And here, when unexpectedly Major Iqbal, towards the end, when he stabs Hamza, I never remember seeing pain being so real in Ranveer Singh's face. The last time I saw a glimpse of that in Leonardo DiCaprio in the body of lies,
Mm.
So, a guy who can bleed, a guy who can feel pain, a guy who can cry, he also can be a bigger hero than all the so-called template pan-India heroes. That for me is a sea change. If you look at it, the story is a very template story. A hero who's working for a lofty cause for his country and is taking all kinds of risks, he's sacrificing his life for the good or whatever. That if you take only that as a story, I think many films are like that can be made, are being made. But here the difference is the respect, the dignity, and the humaneness of it with what Aditya Dhar treated, where none of them look larger than life, but they feel larger than life. There is no artificial build-up of the characters. They are
Mm.
grey. I mean, in one way, if you look at it, Hamza has done as many bad things as the so-called bad guys in the films. Just because we're
Correct.
taking a perspective where Indians and Pakistanis, but if you
Right.
take them as human beings, all of them are equally caught in a situation what they have to do and what they sacrifice, how they died, how they killed. And
Mm.
Hamza is one of them. If you take away the perspective of you're watching it from an Indian perspective, you know.
Right.
So I think that kind of a treatment is something no one has ever seen. It has never been done. Yeah.
You've been a cinema buff for the longest period of time. If you have to compare Ranveer Singh's performance with any of whatever you have seen, say in India, for example, do you think can you draw any parallel? Do you think that this is
I
one of a kind?
I personally think it's the greatest performance I've ever seen. I mean, it is far beyond what I saw in Munich of Spielberg's film in
Mm.
terms of the intensity he has in his eyes. He pulls you, and right from the first frame in the flashback when the film starts, just his close-up pulls into it without even knowing the scene context or whatever it is. It looks like he's just stepped out of life instead of stepping out of a makeup man. That kind of a hold, I would say, on a character. I can't think of a single actor. Probably no one comes to my mind actually in what
No
he has
one.
done in his film.
Right. And the fact that there are two sides to him. One is like
Mm.
beefed up, and the other one is completely lean. Now, you being
Yeah.
a filmmaker, do you think it's something which is an easy task for any actor to accomplish without prosthetics or VFX?
See, I mean, that is there, but it is not about what has been achieved with VFX or not, but eventually you're seeing the effect. It is not about cinema, eventually is about make believe. It is
Mm.
how realistic you make it look, you make feel is the basic success of a filmmaker, you know.
Mm.
Here in this context, I know a lot of actors who will develop a kind of a what called six pack for one period and wear long hair for some period. That happens all the time, but you don't see the consistency in the face, in the character you see in the eyes, in the way he speaks, in the way his body language, in the gestures he does. That consistency is something extremely rare. In fact, I can't recall a single time I saw what is of Ranveer in Dhurandhar.
No, so knowing Ranveer, this is something that when you see the Jaskirat chiseled face, it's that this is him. Even for 83, for example, he became Kapil Dev. And at the same time,
Mhm.
like I personally have seen VFX showreels of certain films, big films, where the six-pack abs they have been made on the VFX table, and the actual picture was something else of the star. So knowing what Ranveer does in terms of the hard work, he must have pulled
No,
off
no, see, I
both
mean,
the looks.
no, I am not denying that, but I think
Mm.
the difference is this is a very complex screenplay.
Mm.
In terms of the story and the screenplay, in its interrelationships with so many characters,
Right.
whether it's with Baloch or with the girl or with his all these people, I find it honestly very difficult. At least I can't think of, because I think 83 and whatever you're talking about, they're very relatively simple to maintain a consistency. That's what
Right.
I think as a filmmaker. Yeah.
Right. You've also said that it will be a Sholay into 100 level magnificence and is bound to make all the greatest films made so far, starting from Mughal Azam onwards, look like TV serials. This is the birth of a new cinematic order. So you are
Yeah.
basically comparing this movie to Sholay and Mughal Azam, and you're saying that it goes way beyond both the films.
Yeah, because that is what I felt.
Mm, mm,
See, now at my age and my experience, and after making so many films, and what all I grew up on, what all I've seen of others making brilliant films, all of them for me in my mind just got faded away. They almost kind of disappeared after seeing Dhurandhar 1 and 2. And that's exactly what I expressed as my opinion. Yeah.
Right, and you've also said that the very spelling of the word director will start from Aditya Dhar film's name, and it'll be prudent and wise for even Steven Spielberg and Christopher Nolan to drop everything they are doing and catch Dhurandhar 2 first day, first show.
Yeah. Why I took the word of Spielberg is because in the context, Munich has a certain thing where Israel sends the Mossad agents to take revenge on the people who have done. To an extent, if you read it like a line, I think there is parallel to it. And I think Aditya Dhar has done far better than Steven Spielberg, which is the reason I took his name. And Nolan to a degree, I mean, because they two are the top directors, and none of Nolan films also have given me this kind of an immersive experience, and which is the reason I took their names. Yeah.
Just speaking about the complex screenplay, for example, have you seen a movie, maybe say in India, for example, the way they have utilized background scores, like a
Hmm.
Rasputin, for example, or Oe Oe, or Tamma Tamma for Sanjay Dutt's death sequence, for example, the way, and even in part one, Ramba Ho and other numbers, Hava Hava, the way they have been utilized, I personally found it to be absolutely very, very innovative and beautiful. Have you
Yeah.
have you ever seen something like this in
Yeah.
any film?
See, with regard to the music, I'll tell you, it's very mysterious. In fact, I was talking to Aditya about it, and on the basis of we are seeing it in a flow, yes, it is fantastic. But to take those decisions at the editing to use this kind of tracks. Suddenly on Sanjay Dutt scene some Thamma Thamma comes or and those kind of it is like a celebration of violence. That is how the music worked. When
Mm,
you feel it's going to be a very serious, dark background score, because that is
right,
what the visual is indicating, and
correct.
then to have a thumping dance beat kind of a song remixed, it is a, only the last time I think I experienced that was in Natural Born Killers by Oliver Stone, way back at that time.
Mm,
But in the context of an Indian film, and to use music like that, I find it stunning, and the what do you call them? So it's very easy now that we saw it, but I think it's very risky take at the point of time of the editing. I feel to do that. It might actually, if you're looking at it, it's a contrasting the gruesome violence with a beat where your feet want to dance to the beat and your eyes are looking at something so gory and so violent. I think that juxtaposition created almost like a psychological trance, which I think is probably the first time I experienced in Durandar. Yeah.
right. So you spoke about the editing part, sir. You also spoke about the fact that almost for 4 hours, 20 minutes, people would just sat over
Hmm.
there, and even if there was one more hour, people would have still sat over there. Now, you understand the psyche of filmmakers very well. You speak to a lot of people. In today's day and age, even like a 2 hours, 20-minute film, for example, people they tend to have sleepless nights before cutting a final cut, for example, because they are like worried okay, that I hope that people will not stand up or like, the notifications or just moving out whatsoever. They don't want any experience that goes in any other direction to even think of. And I think that came from the part one to have like a 3.5 hour film because that was the first uh, risk in a way that he took. Um,
Hmm.
how courageous a step do you find that
Hmm.
to make a
See,
three and
to
a half
start,
hour film to
yeah,
start with, and then
to start with, first of all, I disagree with the notion that a film's length will have anything to do with holding interest. Because if a film is boring, you'll be bored in the first 15 minutes. Why would you
no,
wait for two
sir,
hours or three
I'm talking
hours?
about the fact that psyche of filmmakers, because there are many
Yeah.
players who are involved when a final cut is
No,
being
I know, I know.
cut.
See,
Producers are there.
then it's a question of how much he had to struggle to keep his length. I won't be
Exactly,
knowing those details, but my
exactly.
point is, then after that, whether one is his convincing power, and second is his track record, is probably the way he's been appreciated in Yuri and whatever those films. And then I think it's about even the sensibility of the people who will take that final call of the edit. I mean, we have to give them some credit. Then it's a question of who's in power, who has the right of decision for the final cut. To that extent, I think. Like, and I remember Sandeep Anga told me when he was being asked to cut the length of Animal, he said, Ram sir, I believe that except for the guy who's making the film and the guy who's buying ticket with money, nobody in between knows what a film is. I mean, it's easier said than done
Right.
because
Beautifully said.
the film worked. But if it goes wrong, that will be the major problem, you know. So even today, people say that some people say it is a little too lengthy. The fight should be little. They'll always be those people for every film, for that matter. But the bottom line is when you have a conversation, interesting conversation with somebody, it's not necessary that the whole time it is interesting. It'll keep coming and going, but and sometimes what will happen is even the things which didn't work at precisely at the time you're watching might add up to something else which will create a big impact. See, for me, I personally felt Jamil's character a little too loose in Dhurandhar too. In the beginning stages, he's sitting in the garden with his children or whatever, those kind of things. But by the time he reached the end and he's in the car, it created, it like hit me like a punch in the stomach. And I feel the things which I didn't like also added to that for this impact. So what you might be missing something here and there. So you look at the cumulative impact by the time you come out of the theater. But since you remember that scene you didn't like at that time, you will, as a memory, you will say, "ये थोड़ा लंबा है, वो नहीं होना चाहिए था." But I don't think films work like that.
Like, in fact, you're right about the fact that people did stick around till the end. I saw paid preview on 18th here in Vancouver in Surrey, and it was 11 o'clock in the night when the movie reached the the
Mm.
end credit scene, and people stood up when he just that when he just goes away from his house, and then the end credits
Correct.
start. People had stood up and people sat down. So when the
Mm.
people sat
Yeah.
down and they saw the whole thing, so no
See
one left.
now, see
No
why
one
why
left.
why they would stand up is because they're used to the traditional practice
Of
of once
course.
the fight is over, it
Mm,
will be done. So they'll think it is a psychological
mm,
suggestion for them to stand up.
mm.
But when they slowly realize it doesn't intend to stand there, and they will sit down.
They did.
Now,
No one
contrast
stepped
to
out.
that, when I saw in Geo Plaza, one guy didn't get up. Either they heard already that the film goes on even after the
Aditya
climax
had
for a long time.
posted, yeah.
It could
Aditya
be
had posted
that.
before, yeah.
Yeah. Either they heard that for whatever it is, not one guy stirred from the chair till the entire end credits were over.
Right. Okay, so talking about the performances, you've worked with Sanjay Dutt. Now
Hmm.
people are loving his performance. That it's a performance that not a single false note as far as he's concerned. He literally is enjoying himself like anything. How do you look at his performance?
You see, Sanjay's got such a strong screen presence. I feel he's one of the few actors who doesn't need to perform. I don't mean it as anything negative. I mean it as a compliment.
Mm,
And the very character, his walk and everything is worked. Right from the first film is introduced with the Hawa Hawaii song and all that. You bought so much into the character and it is terrific. But if only in context, because I think Ranveer Singh is the most complex performance, like I already explained.
right.
And I think that was brilliant, just when we thought after Aslam Chowdhury's death, I
Mm,
think there has to be one more villain, and then Major Iqbal is brought. I
right.
think the tongue scene is genius because without the tongue
Ah,
scene,
the
you wouldn't
father.
have been able to shift your attention
Mm.
from Aslam Chaudhary to Major Iqbal. Yeah.
That confrontation between the father and the son was
Mm.
brilliant. That provocation was
Yeah,
was
correct.
brilliant. Absolutely. I think that both of them they literally
Yeah.
killed it. Arjun Rampal is getting a very good response as well. But
Yes, yes.
he has literally pulled off a very fine performance. How do you look at Arjun's performance?
Yeah. So that's what I was saying.
Mm,
See, I felt sometimes he was functional in Durandar too in the beginning, that the fact he's a character who's continuing from the first part.
mm,
But the moment that that sequence happened with his father, I'm completely into Arjun Rampal after that, absolutely. And just the extension, if you just shot his father or just maybe hit him or something, the tongue has created a certain image of him in my mind. I was more scared of him than anyone else. And his expression when he's shaving off his hair and all that, it's just like I was feeling scared for Hamza
Right.
of to
Wow.
see that transformation in such short a period. And that I think is a pure brilliance of Aditya, that he is able to communicate to the actor what he wants. Aditya is a very soft spoken guy, and I mean, in fact, I was joking with him when I met him. Killed an ant or a you can't even you won't even swat a fly. That is how, or a mosquito. That is how you look. Otherwise, so who's the real guy? Are the characters of Dhurandhar hidden in you, and you're portraying this very calm, like a monk kind of a thing, or is it what? I was just joking with him. So I
Okay.
think if you look at that, each and every character, irrespective of their stardom, whether it is Ujay Baloch or every smallest of the guy, I could see a tremendous briefing of Aditya happening before the shot. Because
Okay.
otherwise it is impossible to create those kind of expressions. Yeah.
You spoke about Uzair Balu, that is Danish Pendor. The Arshad Pappu murder sequence and the way he plays football with his head. Apparently, some portions
Yeah.
were edited by the censor board.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
did you you've made many gangster films
Hmm.
as a someone who loves making and watching that sort of films, those sort of films. Did you enjoy that particular sequence? The level of rage.
See the point is, I do enjoyment. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I want to turn my face away, but that's the whole point. I would do that in real life if something
Mm,
like that I had to see. You know.
mm,
So the success there is, it looked as real, which is the reason I wanted to look away. See, if you see a car accident and you see a guy bloodied and all that, you want to look away. You don't want to see it.
mm.
But looking away doesn't mean you want it away. It is the way it has impacted you. And that's one of the finest scenes, one of the most
Correct.
impactful scenes in the film, I would say,
Right.
is that one. Yeah.
One more huge stereotype that gets broken by this film, and more so in part two, is the language. There are a lot of expletives, for example. There's a lot of gully
Mm.
galoch that is happening. Now, the general conventional wisdom of the industry folks will be it the exhibitors or the um, or the or the producers,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example, will be that this is this turns out to be like a very niche film, in terms of the family
Yeah.
audience
They'll
is
say
very
families won't come, women
correct,
won't like it,
correct,
regular
correct,
thing. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, do you find that once again a huge risk that paid off in a big way? Ultimately, people connect to the story.
To my knowledge, the first time expletives were heard was in Satya. You know,
Right,
uh, like Chutia and all that, and all that came in Satya. So, but the point is, when that is the language of those people you're dealing with, you know,
right.
and it has not been said for effect, has not been said for shock value. It is genuinely helping in the characters of Durandar to express their emotion and their attitude and their way outlook towards life. I think there are so many things running parallelly. Now the censor guy is muting something here and there, whatever. I think they go by the guidelines or whatever that particular sensibility of that particular board, which keeps changing all the time, like. So I think, but actually, there was never a single thing which was out. Hey, itna gali hai, I never thought. The gali, some mute happened. 15 minutes into the film, I stopped looking at something being there or something not being there. That is what I felt.
Now, talking about the performances, Rakesh Bedi. Here's an
Mm.
actor who's been around for many decades now. He gets a role. He has proved his talent for many years now. But the way
Mm.
he has been presented in this movie, it's like he's a scene stealer,
Mm.
and he
Yeah.
literally digs into it, and what a performance, both parts.
See, that's if you look at it, I mean, I'm not taking away anything from any of the actors, but it's the
Mm,
brilliance of the screenplay, the brilliance
mm,
of Aditya Dhar's, I mean, what do you call grip on the characters and the emotions he's dealing with. I
Right.
can't really single out one actor being better than the other because that is about the character's importance in the screenplay. Whenever they're given their time, they're as brilliant as anybody else. Somebody could be a star, somebody might not be a star. That's about the only difference. But when
Right.
you're watching, who is lesser? I don't see a single person who's lesser in the whole film, whether
Absolutely.
it is Arjun Rampal's father or some small guy who could be there only for maybe 6 7 minutes or something like that. I don't see a single person who's like any less important than as much as the principal characters,
Right.
and
Okay.
that goes to say about his grip, like I said, his understanding.
You said that even Ranveer's character, for example, it has its gray shades,
Yeah.
and it does a lot of things which will be considered as wrong to the people that he does, for example, and he's manipulative as well. At the same time, the interval sequence when he's the most vulnerable, because that's his personal side. When Udaybir, when Pinda recognizes him, and that scene in the mirror, for example, did you find that
Mm.
fascinating? That human element that comes
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
it's like
it's
almost
funny.
Shakespearean.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
and
That's one of
unconventional
my favorite scenes.
unconventional
Mm.
interval points, unconventional.
Yeah, see, it's unconventional because it is. See, we always are used to this word called interval bang, especially in South. It's very prominent. They
Correct.
make a big high. This
Mm,
is just with an information ended. There is no bang, there's no build up. That is the least, designed to make an impact. अभी audience को second half में भाग के आना चाहिए. There's no intention at all
mm.
in that. That is what shocks you when he's not trying to shock you. That shocks you more because it is so unexpected. And that's the whole point.
Right. So you've also said that the
See, if you look at it, for me, and I'm hats off to Ranveer Singh for this because Ranveer Singh is a big star, and any star's first thing would be people should only be talking about him. After the entire fight, everything is over. Suddenly, Jamil also becomes a star, out of the blue. Then, of course, Ajay Sanyal becomes a star. And it looks like a new guy who came, ISA officer, who's trying to torture Hamza, and that is what you call his life is in his hands at that time. And a phone call from Ajay Sanyal having some random thing of he's having something to blackmail him. So it is not even Hamza's thing. It is just something which he did. So
right.
all the characters, they all look like as powerful as Hamza. You know, and in
Mm,
fact, you're cutting down Hamza's power post the fight with Major Iqbal. Actually, look, others take over the film more than that. You are just having an emotional residue for Hamza. The fact
mm,
that he's still there, he goes back to his place and burning the photo of his relationship with Sarah. It is
mm.
just an emotional finishing for him, whereas the other actors look like bigger heroes. Which this is the effect I felt when um, in Oppenheimer, I was seeing a 2 hour 45-minute film, and then Truman says, see, no one cares a fuck about who made the bomb. They care about who dropped it. I did. So suddenly Truman in half a scene he becomes bigger than Oppenheimer. You know?
Right. Right.
I
And
think that
I
kind
agree.
of sincerity towards the story and characters and each character's limitations, no matter how big a star or whatever, I don't think in cinema it has ever happened. And I really want to appreciate Ranveer Singh because now it is blockbuster. Anybody can say, can do it. But in the process of untested thing of how a big star film can be treated like this obviously will be the first of its kind ever.
And the opening sequence when he kills off those people in the village, that level of rage in his eyes, and there was fear as well. There was
Yeah,
rage, there was anger, but at the same time there was fear as well. That beautiful
correct, correct.
emotions.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mm,
you see, that is what I'm saying. The range of emotions without explaining what Ranveer Singh showed, he cries. He cries like no, I never saw a hero cry. With an action hero, I'm talking about this action film. It's not like an emotional drama or a love story or something like that. And the anger and the hatred and the feeling of what you're being insecure, there are
yeah.
multifaceted emotions, you know And all of them seem coming from the same character because underlying consistency is immense. Yeah.
Right. Madhavan, what about his performance?
The point for me, I don't know. You see, I would like to believe that Madhavan's character is the most, in a conventional word, it is very flat, but that is the requirement of the character.
Mm,
See, after the whole thing happens and Hamza comes, anybody would expect, when he said, you did good. It's such a flat thing. I thought he will say, you were fantastic. I thought he will hug him. But that is where the brilliance of the film is.
mm,
Maybe he's handling so many people like Hamza. So चलो एक छोटा compliment दे दिया इतना से. And that is the intention of Aditya, not to go overboard on देश के लिए तुमने क्या कर दिया तुम्हारा हमारा देश बच गया तुम्हारे. He didn't say all that. He did good. He said, Now that is not a performance. So not to perform and just to be very flat, I think that is the design of the character. So if you ask me, the effect of the character is fantastic, and that's because there was no performance at all.
beautifully said. Beautifully
Even,
said.
yeah.
Okay, and sir,
even
sir,
when, even when he's talking, when this guy in the intercut is being tortured, he's so calm. He takes his own time to build up. I have got this on you, that on you, to tell the ISI guy to leave him. He's holding his kid. It looks like he's almost unconcerned about the urgency of the situation. Technically, he knows he's being tortured. He's been caught. You should see a sense of urgency, a sense of him trying to do that. And him sitting casually leaning back in the chair is what even that is consistent in the entire film. That is what I'm saying.
you are a great filmmaker yourself, and you're talking about the screenplay and the writing part of it. So even you are literally writing a screenplay out of this entire experience that you have had of watching
Yeah.
these two films, and you're saying that people are not merely loving Dhurandhar, they are married to marry.
Yeah.
You give a
Yeah.
different perspective, and people, it's almost like
Yeah,
a love
I
story.
said
It's
today I told somebody I
yeah.
want to marry. I mean, I lost belief in marriage. The first time again it came into me, I want to marry Dhurandhar, I said.
I've asked you this many times, and I've said this to you many times. You've got a very virile mind. You're always very, very sharp, and your writing,
Hmm.
the way you're writing is. We're living in times of Chat GPT, and but the fact is, Chat GPT can't write what you do. For example, has this film, for example, and this sort of filmmaking, for example, has it inspired you to just give that gem that many of your fans
Absolutely,
want to see you
absolutely.
from?
I'm in the process of writing a script of my next film called Syndicate. And I almost thought I cracked it. This is before Dhurandhar released. And I thought probably this is the best script I wrote. And then I saw Dhurandhar, it completely changed my mind because the Dhurandhar has created a new benchmark. See, anybody thinking something good he has done is based on the previous benchmark. I definitely think this is better than what I've seen. I didn't see Dhurandhar by that time, so that changed. Dhurandhar 2 further changes. You know,
Right.
so, like that, like I mentioned, I think in some tweet, a filmmaker, no matter how experienced he is, most filmmakers they learn from the predecessors who came before and they grew up on. They studied. And the first time I felt you need to learn from people who came much after you, also, which is what I think I probably today, if you ask me around 4 months back a question, who's the biggest influencer on you? I would have probably said Steven Spielberg. I would have said Coppola. I would have said many other names. But today, the only filmmaker which influenced me is Aditya Dhar. I'd
That's
forgotten everything and everything I learned from anybody else before it.
what about Sandeep Reddy Venga?
See, Sandeep is in a context, he's not the kind of filmmaker. Like, see, Animal, I would never make. It's not that I can't make Arjun Reddy. That's completely different. Aditya Dhar is very much in my territory. My territory as in what kind of cinema I want to watch. It's like, like a Satya or a company or this power politics and this gangster psyches and all that. That's in a zone where my natural interest is. My natural interest is not about father son relationship like Animal. I was impressed with the way created Ranveer's character. Many scenes shocked me and all that. But that's not my zone. That is what I'm saying.
All right, so thank you very much. Wonderful talking to you as
Yeah.
always. My last question to you will be: do you have a prediction for the final numbers of Dhurandhar, Dhurandhar 2?
See, I'll tell you something strange which happened. A very big budget film of a big star called Pavan Kalyan. It released on the same day in Telugu, and
Ustad,
Dhurandhar Telugu dubbing version is becoming fools everywhere, and that is touted to be a disaster. So, in the context of that, in a Telugu speaking thing like Andhra Pradesh, where they don't know Hindi and they're seeing a dub version in full houses, you're not getting tickets. That I think is a clear signal for that kind of cinema is over. The all hero worship and taunting with background score and slow motion to lift them up and all that. I think that is a clear signal, you know. So, in the context of that, it is very difficult if it is done like you said, 100 yesterday, it is bound to do more today.
mm,
And then on top of that, let us not forget it is made each piece around 130, 140 crores, each
right.
of them, you know.
Mm,
And if that kind of a thing you're able to do this and telling serious storytelling, it is not about, there is no shock value, it is intended shock value. The shock is coming not necessarily only for the twist in the tale, but it's also the twist in the screenplay structure, which is the
right.
first time ever anybody saw. Yeah. So I think I won't be surprised if it goes 2000, 2500.
Which has never happened before.
Yeah, obviously.
Do you see some changes in movies like King, for example, and other films that are going to be coming in, even Toxic?
See, not mentioning anything specific, because I don't want to say that, whether the films which are already made, waiting for release, which are being made, and which are being planned, all of them have to have a reset button. I don't think Indian cinema will be the same again after Dhurandhar. Because when they planned those films, when they were making, they were still planned on the old template. You know,
Right.
let us not forget that the old template is what is mindless worship. इंडिया में ऐसी फिल्में चलते हैं क्या collections देखो ये film का वो film का and all that. If that goalpost has been changed drastically with Dhurandhar, so will people like to see a man flying, almost flying in the air and biting with his teeth with his hands cut back? I am not sure that kind of a thing walking out of Dhurandhar in the next week or whatever time, I see a fight like that, it will look ridiculous, technically speaking. Okay, fair enough. Every film can't be Dhurandhar. I understand that. People see all kinds of films. I understand that also. But just a staple diet of entertainment is very different from the high impact. You know,
Absolutely right.
when
Absolutely
you
right.
read it, you see you're a hero doing a gallery performance, having dialogue and having gestures and all that is very different from the maddening intensity and the realism in Ranveer Singh kind of a hero.
Right.
That is what I'm saying. So because of that, I feel they will be scared of the numbers. First of all, they'll be scared of the impact. They'll be scared. See, first film still they had a what do you call, maybe it's a right-wing film, propaganda film, or this, they never took the film very seriously for a long time, Dhurandhar, that's the reason they were trying to come in with competition. But once that is done, now Dhurandhar 2 having these kind of numbers, it will be stupid for them not to take this seriously and make the whatever amendments. But the problem there is, even you have the intent to do it, where will you get the brain of Aditya Dhar? That is a problem. Because
Right.
it came organically with him, others will try to imitate. For example, if it takes a long, lengthy shot of Ranveer Singh's expression, holding it forever, and now you say, let us, me also hold it forever, the emotion has to be there, na? Which he built up to that. The
Right.
shot is working because of the build-up. If you fail in the build-up, most of the pan India directors, if you look at it, they talk about box office. They talk about ये करेंगे पूरा खुला देगा India को all this they're talking. You know.
Right.
Now the maturity of Aditya Dhar and his dignity and his depth of understanding, when it is not there, how do you imitate that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is
So,
the reason that is the reason I said in my tweet is destroyed the industry. See, the industry is not Aditya Dhar. Aditya Dhar made the film. and all the thousands of crores it makes will maybe go to him and the producer Geo and all that. Now all the other thousands of crores invested, they are going to be at huge risk, and that is the reason I use the word destroyed. So,
Right.
like, if Pakistani's enemy is Hamza, Indian film's enemy is Aditya Dhar. Yeah.
All right. So actually, we can keep talking to you for hours because it's a very very engrossing conversation
But
always with you.
don't you agree with that? What I'm saying?
No, no, hundred
And I
percent,
maintain, yeah, okay. So
hundred
you are a
percent,
party to me.
hundred
Yeah.
percent, 100%, 100%. So thank you very much, sir. Lovely talking to you, and looking forward to whatever
Okay.
films that you make in the near future because I'm sure that you're absolutely virile, and it's just a matter of time that we see
Yeah.
like a Dhurandhar sort of great film from you as well. So thank you very much, sir, and all the best wishes. Thanks a
Yes.
lot.
Hi, this is Ram Gopal Varma, and you're watching Memorable Conversations with Faridoon Shahryar.